The best editing category at the Academy Awards pisses me off. This might seem crazy considering how simple the editing is in a lot of my videos, but I went to film school with a concentration in film editing. It's a part of the filmmaking world that I feel very passionate about, not only because I really enjoy it, but I consider it the most fulfilling part of the process. It feels the most like filmmaking to me, but I also find the concept of film editing to be fascinating. It's one of the most unique tools associated with the art form. It's not a form of storytelling you find anywhere else, technically, besides maybe graphic novels where they choose where to put each panel. It's a simple technique that has its own set of rules and formulas. It also holds a tremendous sense of power in not only communicating where an artist could be coming from, but also controlling what perspective you're supposed to be seeing this film from. I find film, more than any other art form, to control its viewer to an overwhelming degree. It's why the films of Gaspar Noé continue to fascinate me, because he, more than anyone, takes advantage of that quality. And every time I watch one of his movies, I'm reminded of this power that cinema holds. To me, a lot of that power is in the hands of the editor, who is directly in charge in what you get to see as the viewer and when you get to see it. They control the rhythm of the film, they control the perspective of the film, and they control the accessibility of the film. It's crazy. For these reasons, I always end up pretty frustrated by what the editing branch at the Oscars choose to nominate, especially recently, as the category has gotten weirdly tied into Best Picture, or I guess I should say noticeably tied into Best Picture. Some brief backstory. The Best Editing category is voted on by the editors branch, which at least in 2012 consisted of 220 members. They decide on the nominees. They decide on the winners. The award has been around since 1934, and since then, the winner of the editing category has had a tie to whoever wins Best Picture. The stats are crazy. According to a Variety article, since editing became an Oscar category in 1934, only 9 films have won Best Picture without at least a nomination for editing. The last was 1980's Ordinary People. Of the 61 films that have won Best Picture Oscars since 1952, 32 have won the editing statuette as well. This article was written in 2013. It's a little dated. Coda won Best Picture without an editing nomination. But when you start to notice this trend, it's kind of crazy. Like, what is Green Book doing there? What was so special about the Green Book editing? What was so special about the as good as it gets editing? At this point, this category is just a little hint as to who might win Best Picture. That is all it really means anymore. This year's nominees are The Brutalist, Anora, Conclave, Wicked, and obviously Amelia Perez. Of these nominees, the only films that really feel like films with editing that's worth recognizing are The Brutalist, Anora, and Conclave. My pick being Conclave. But that's not what this category is even about anymore. It's just about who is the top 5 for Best Picture, or it at least was. And that's just bullshit, man. I mean, they go off the rails sometimes with it. You know, Baby Driver was the most recent example I can think of. But they're always just the strangest nominations. No category gets my mind all loopy the way this one does. I like Anora's editing. I'm glad it's here. The home invasion scene is some of the best editing of the year, hands down. Glad to see it's recognized. But it's one of those things where it's like, if it weren't a Best Picture thing, if it weren't even at all involved this award season, there's no world where it would get nominated in Best Editing. I know it's kind of like stupid to say. It's like, well, yeah, that it wouldn't be anywhere. It wouldn't be in editing. But it's like, you hear what I'm saying though? Like, it's just because it's a Best Picture thing, they feel obligated to put it in editing. And it's like, why can't we just nominate what the best edited films are? Which, to be fair, in my opinion, Anora is probably one of them, but to a lot of people, that's just, I don't think their mind would go to Anora when they think of the best edited films. On a more negative note, Wicked, I'm more pissed about. That's like, it's not offensively bad, right? But I also remember being annoyed by the film's stop and start thing. It's also way too long. The editing could have been a little tighter, is all I'm saying. I'm not gonna write home about Wicked's editing, but that's not what it's about. It's about who could be the Best Picture winner, and Wicked is like a pretty strong player. Amelia Perez, I don't even need to talk about that one. It's the editing is like the 30th thing that doesn't work about that film. We all know why it's here. It's random because I don't see this kind of thing in any other category. For some reason, it's just editing. Other categories do branch out. No pun intended. Nominated films that wouldn't get any love in any other category get nominated. Cinematography is a good example. They always have some respectable choices like The Lighthouse, Cold War, Maria this year. Even the director's branch makes interesting choices every now and then, like Thomas Vinterberg getting nominated for another round. Pavel Pawlikowski for Cold War. Who we got? Who we got? David Lynch for Mulholland Drive. Makeup always surprises with a few cool choices like Border, A Different Man. Production design, they know what they're doing. Editing, again, has done this a few times with Baby Driver. That's really the only time I can think of. But for the most part, the category feels completely out of touch with itself. It's lost the plot. The winners are a somewhat different story, but can still be frustrating. One of the worst Oscar wins of the last 10 years was Bohemian Rhapsody winning Best Editing. To be fair, looking back at the nominees, it wasn't like I was passionate about any of the nominees that it beat out. As much as I loved The Favorite and Black Klansman, it's like I don't really think about the editing first when I think about those films. But also this is the problem with the category. When you only nominate Best Picture frontrunners, you're going to get a shitty editing win. I suppose Bohemian Rhapsody is the most showy of the nominees. It's the biggest in terms of runtime. That historically is also what the Oscars tend to go with. And I'm not that upset with it. Usually the biggest film, that does have the most impressive cut. It's why The Brutalist is my prediction as of now. It's a very impressive cut. It's also why I'm very confused why Dune Part 2 was shut out, even though it won a few years ago. Ford v Ferrari beating Parasite isn't the craziest thing in the world for this reason, but it's also like, I don't know, Parasite clearly is the better edit. To be honest, looking at the past winners, though, it could be worse. They miss all the time with the nominations, but the winners, for the most part, are pretty on point. Social Network, Mad Max Fury Road, Oppenheimer, all that jazz won. They gave it to Z in 1969. That's pretty crazy. But it's this weird Best Picture connection in recent years that's left this category feeling so suffocated, especially for how inventive editing has gotten over the years. Especially in documentary filmmaking. The hardest class I took in film school was my documentary editing class. It was a hellish experience. That is literally almost the entire filmmaking process. Not to discredit people who are on the ground doing documentary filmmaking, but like the editing process for documentary is insane. If you're a master, you can crank out a really decent, watchable doc. That's if you're amazing at it. Even those Netflix true crime docs that we consider slop, the people behind the editing in those documentaries are brilliant at what they do. Most reality TV shows have brilliant editing, which just says so much when a doc can go beyond that formula, when it can push out of that. That's when I feel like we should start recognizing it. There's a documentary nominated this year called Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat that has some of the best editing I've seen in the last 5 years. I was blown away by the cut of this film. It works hand in hand with the rhythm of the jazz in the film, but never feels exhausting. It completely locks you in and carries you through its lengthy runtime without ever feeling a second of it. It's such a breeze to get through. It's a work of art in both the edit and in like the motion graphics. For it to be completely ignored by the editing branch this year is unsurprising, obviously, but just so baffling at the same time. All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, Fire of Love, Flea, same thing. There have been so many incredibly well-edited docs over the last few years that have just been, you don't even talk about them in other categories. Like they just get completely shut out altogether. And that's just so annoying to me. It's like they should be recognized for their craft. As far as I know, only 2 docs have ever been nominated in the best editing category. Woodstock, which hilariously enough was of course edited by Thelma Shoemaker, and Hoop Dreams. That's crazy to me. I don't have a clean way of tying up this video. I just wanted to say all this stuff because I just woke up today thinking about it. The editing category has become such a drag to me. A shame considering it's the category I feel most passionate about outside the awards. So I had to come on here and yap about it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.